Yo, what's going on, everybody? GZTV back with another video, and I can't wait because I really want to talk about this movie. It's not one of my favorite movies I've watched, but it's definitely a really interesting one, and the fact that it is based on a true story, I'm a sucker for those movies. I really like those because it has a lot of realism to it, and like while you're watching it, you're really considering this. You're like, oh my god, this actually happens. We're gonna get through the plot. We're gonna see what people think. We're gonna see what I think about the movie. Yeah, that's pretty much our format. So, let's see. In 1963, teenager Frank William Abagnale, I don't really remember how they pronounce his name, Jr., lives in New Rochelle, New York, with his father Frank Abagnale Sr. and his French mother Paula. So again, these are actual characters. Every character they used, every name they used in the show is actually real. Hanratty, everybody. During his youth, he witnesses his father's many techniques for conning people, so it kind of rubs off on him. Because of Frank Sr.'s tax problems with the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, the family is forced to move from their large home to a small apartment, and Paula is clearly devastated. She's very fucking materialistic, like most of these women are. I mean, let's be real here. Yeah, she's devastated. One day, Frank discovers that his mother is having an affair with his father's friend, Jack Barnes, and we find out later in the film that they actually end up getting engaged. Again, this is not a spoiler-free review. If you want to watch spoiler-free reviews of this movie, go watch other YouTubers. I mean, I wish I had the integrity to not spoil a movie, but I really like going through the plot and using it as kind of discussion points for this. I think everyone should be doing that. If you haven't watched the movie, just go watch it and then watch the review. What's the point of watching a review if you I mean, I guess I can give you recommendations for a movie, but still. When his parents divorce, Frank runs away. Needing money, he turns to confidence scams to survive, and his cons grow bolder. So him running away from his family and needing money is kind of the motivation behind his cons. And actually, he posed as a substitute teacher for his school one time, and that's really what brewed it. They didn't add that in this. He impersonates a Pan Am pilot and forges the airline's payroll checks, taking the airplanes, like taking the logo off them and like pressing them up against the checks. I mean, this guy was a fucking mastermind. If you watch it, you're like, really? How did he pull these off? Soon his forgeries are worth millions of dollars. No one has really caught him in the act yet. No one is really getting on him, but they're starting to. News of the crimes reached the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and Agent Carl Hanratty. Carl Hanratty is played by Tom Hanks. William Abagnale is played by Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a pretty star-studded group of people. Martin Sheen's in this, Christopher Walken. I mean, it's a pretty good cast, I would say. So Carl and Frank, the Catch Me If You Can, I mean, Frank is running away from Carl Hanratty, pretty much. Carl finds him at a hotel, but Frank tricks Carl into believing he is Secret Service agent Barry Allen. Oh my god, it's so funny. Barry Allen is actually the real name for Flash in like the comic books, so I think that's funny. He escapes before Carl realizes that he was fooled. So Hanratty has been like toyed around throughout this movie, and this is one of the instances. Frank begins to impersonate a doctor, so he's taking on multiple different professions to clear his name out of Carl Hanratty's books and stuff. As Dr. Frank Connors, he falls in love with Brenda, a naive young hospital worker. Guys, this girl is beautiful. I'm not gonna lie, Brenda's beautiful. She's not like a model looking or anything. She's beautiful, bro. He asks her attorney father for her hand and also wants his help with arranging to take the Louisiana State bar exam, which Frank passes. So it turns out later in this film, Frank reveals, I actually studied 2 weeks to get a fucking bar exam done. So props to him. You can't really be mad at the guy. I think that's hilarious. Obviously, just taking the bar exam and not taking any classes isn't going to help you in the medical field. It's literally one exam, so you have one exam to look over the material. Carl tracks Frank to his and Brenda's engagement party, but Frank escapes through a bedroom window. And he's like, look, Brenda, you need to meet me at the Miami International Airport in a couple mornings here. Before escaping, Frank asks Brenda to meet him at Miami International Airport 2 days later. There he sees her, but also spots plainclothes agents and realizes she has given him up, then drives away. She has a reason to kind of snitch on him, or else she'd be taken into custody for being associated with this con artist, really. So she kind of had to give in. So he sees these disguises. He's a very smart individual, by the way. I gotta praise him. He's fucking 17 years old, 18 years old at this point in the show. Just getting fucking engaged to a girl that's like in her mid 20s. I mean, it's kind of a crazy fucking thing to think about. And this actually happened. Like, dude, this actually happened. This isn't no fake occurrence, I'm telling you. Leonardo DiCaprio obviously wasn't fucking 17 when he was acting in this film. Jesus. I mean, he was probably a good 28, like Brenda said. He reassuming his pilot identity, he stages a false recruiting drive for stewardesses at a local college. So you guys are gonna figure out what this guy's plan is really soon. It is actually like fucking ingenious. Surrounded by 8 women as stewardess, he conceals himself from Carl and the other agents walking through and escapes on a flight to Adolfo Suarez Madrid Barajas Airport, Spain. So he ends up in Spain. He ends up like traveling the world and completing cons there because Hanratty's not there. In 1967, Carl tracks down Frank in his mother's hometown of Montrichard, France. And at first when I saw this, that his agent was like, oh, Montrichard, that's where his mother grew up. I was like, there's no way Frank is there. And then they show up, and then Hanratty shows up, and Frank is actually there, and it's kind of crazy. He's incarcerated in a French prison in Marseille, where he becomes very ill due to its poor conditions. Obviously, France probably doesn't have the best prisons. It's a very big city, very marginalized. Yeah. Carl takes Frank on a flight back to the United States because he wants him incarcerated in the United States. And he gets the French agents, he gets the French officers to be like, okay, yeah, you can take him back to the U.S. Just keep him in custody. Don't let him get away. I don't know why he didn't have him in handcuffs. I don't know why he didn't have him strapped to the seat during this flight, but okay. As they make their approach, he informs him that his father has died. So on the flight back to America, Frank learns that his father has passed away. And he had very good relations with his father, especially throughout the film, sending him letters. Hey, I'm a pilot. Hey, I'm a doctor. Hey, I'm a lawyer. Every time. And there's a cycle of events that keep happening. He sends his father a letter, then he watches TV about the profession. I think it's hilarious. Grief-stricken, Frank escapes from the plane and reaches the house of his now remarried mother who has a daughter. So it's around Christmas time when it is like Christmas time. It was Christmas Eve here in France. So he arrives to his mom's house. She's with Jack, of course. You could see this as a Christmas movie. Like, he's getting home for the holidays, and I think it's like such an emotional moment when he like peeks into the window and sees the daughter. I think it's like really sad to see this. Frank surrenders to Carl and is sentenced to 12 years and a maximum security prison, so he officially gets caught for good and gets sentenced. Carl officially visits Frank. During one visit, he shows him a fraud check from a case he is working on, so like he wants Frank to like look at it and give him intel about it because Frank's been working in the fraud business. Frank immediately figures out that the bank teller was involved in the fraud. Impressed, Carl convinces the FBI to allow him to serve the remainder of his sentence working for the FBI bank fraud unit, so he pretty much works a 9 to 5 every day for the rest of his sentence for the FBI. So, Frank agrees, but soon grows restless to the tedious office work. I mean, he'd probably rather be in jail at this point, in prison. One weekend, Frank prepares to impersonate a pilot again and is intercepted by Carl, who allows him to carry on his act, assuring him that no one is chasing him. They think he's working for the FBI. They think he's in prison still. As Frank returns to work and discusses another fraud case with Carl, the postscript indicates that Frank has lived for 26 years in the Midwestern United States with his wife, with whom he has had 3 sons, remains friends with Carl, and has built a successful living as one of the world's leading experts on bank fraud and forgery. Even like being a lead on making secure checks for banks, and they like showed that in the monologue for this. It's a good movie. No, I would like 96% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 7.9 out of 10. With help from a strong performance by Leonardo DiCaprio as real-life wonderkind con artist Frank Abagnale, Steven Spielberg crafts a film that's stylish, breezily entertaining, and surprisingly sweet. 7.5 out of 10 on Metacritic, generally favorable reviews. CinemaScore gave it an A- grade. Yeah, I really like DiCaprio's performance. This is not a major Spielberg film, although it is an effortlessly watchable one. It was not Spielberg's best movie, but one of his smoothest and maybe his friendliest. The colorful cinematography, smart performances, and brisk tempo suggest a filmmaker subordinating every other impulse to the task of manufacturing pleasure. DiCaprio shows the range and ease and cleverness that Martin Scorsese so underutilized in Gangs of New York. That's what people are comparing it to. Catch Me If You Can never takes itself or its subjects too seriously and contains more genuinely funny material than about 90% of the so-called comedies found in multiplexes these days. John Williams' film score felt more intimate and jazzy than his usual material, evoking an unintentionally Henry Mancini. Uh, there are a few negative reviews. He considered the film to be bogged down over 140 minutes. A film that took off like a hare on speed ends like a winded tortoise. That is just fucking stupid. Yeah, everyone is entitled to their opinion, but come the fuck on. No, man. I wouldn't give this film a negative review. I think it's really good. 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's technically like 2 hours 15 minutes. Once you get through like the intro with the intro credits, and once you get to the post credits, it's about like 2 hours 15 minutes. It seems long. Sometimes when I was watching, I was like, "Oh my god, can this movie end already?" But when you were getting to the big scenes, like the third act, it was absolutely spectacular. I really liked this movie. Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio in a Steven Spielberg film. You can't go wrong with this. Very entertaining, very action-packed, very clever. Yeah, that's all I'm really gonna say. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'm out. I'm probably gonna play like a game of 2K, and then probably